Hey, say sharing is caring. But what if Einstein believed there are some things you should never share with anyone, not because you're hiding, but because protecting certain parts of yourself is the key to peace, power, and inner clarity. In a world obsessed with oversharing, online, offline, even with people who haven't earned your truth, we've forgotten something vital. Your mind, your vision, your inner world deserves boundaries. In this video, we'll uncover 5 things Einstein silently warned us not to give away so easily. Things that, once shared with the wrong people, can quietly sabotage your confidence, your purpose, and your future. So if you've ever felt drained after opening up, misunderstood after being honest, or broken after trusting the wrong person, this message is for you. Because protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's wisdom. Let's begin. Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened up to someone, really opened up, and then regretted it afterward? Not because your pain wasn't real, not because it didn't matter, but because as soon as you spoke it, it felt like something sacred had been exposed to someone who didn't know how to hold it. Maybe they gave you advice you didn't ask for. Maybe they changed the subject. Maybe they minimized it, made you feel like you were being dramatic or weak. And in that moment, something inside you quietly shut down. Albert Einstein once said that in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. But he didn't say that opportunity should be shared with just anyone. Your pain, especially the deep, raw kind, is sacred ground. Not everyone deserves access to it. You don't owe your story to people who haven't earned the right to hold it. Because here's the truth. When you share your wounds with people who don't know how to receive them, they stop being a path to healing and start becoming a source of shame. It's like giving someone a precious seed and they drop it on concrete. Your pain needs safety, stillness, a space where it can be heard without being judged, fixed, or dismissed. A space where someone looks at you, really looks at you, and says, I don't have to understand everything. I'm just here, with you. So the next time you feel the urge to pour your heart out, pause. Ask yourself, will this person hold what I'm about to share, or will they just handle it? There's a difference, and your heart can feel it. You're not wrong for needing to speak. You're not too much. You're not being dramatic. You're just wise enough to know that your inner world deserves reverence. And sometimes, that means keeping it to yourself until the right heart is ready to listen. Have you ever had an idea so alive inside you, it scared you? A vision that kept whispering, there's something more for you, even when your outer life didn't reflect it? Maybe it came to you in a quiet moment, in the shower, in the middle of the night, or while you were staring out a window thinking, what if? But then, you made the mistake so many of us make. You shared it too early, maybe with a friend, a partner, a family member, someone you thought would understand, someone you hoped would support you. And instead of encouragement, you got skepticism. Raised eyebrow, a dismissive laugh, a list of reasons why it wouldn't work. They didn't mean to crush it, but they did. And now, that dream you were once so excited about feels a little less alive. Albert Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge. He knew something we often forget. Every great invention, every world-changing idea, every masterpiece begins as something invisible, something delicate, and that means it needs protection. You see, most people can't see what you see. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not meant to. Your dream was planted in your heart, not theirs. It speaks your language. It beats with your rhythm. And when you try to explain it too soon, before it's strong enough to stand on its own, it often gets misunderstood. Or worse, talked out of you. There's a reason seeds stay hidden underground before they bloom. They need darkness. They need time. They need silence. Your dreams are the same. They're not meant to be shared with just anyone, especially not when they're still in seed form. Not because people are cruel, but because they're conditioned by limitations. Most people can't support what they don't understand. And if your vision stretches beyond their mindset, they'll unconsciously pull you back into their comfort zone. That's not your fault, and it's not theirs either. It's just human nature. But this is where your responsibility comes in. You have to decide what matters more, being understood, or being aligned with what's calling you. Because when you share your dreams too early, looking for approval, you risk trading clarity for validation. You end up editing your vision so it fits someone else's lens, someone who was never meant to see it clearly in the first place. Imagine if Einstein had asked permission to dream beyond what others thought was possible. We wouldn't have half the discoveries that shape our world today. Dreams need time to root before they rise. They need you to believe in them, fiercely, quietly, consistently, before anyone else can. So here's a question for you. What vision have you been holding back because someone else couldn't see it? What dream have you started doubting because the wrong person didn't believe in it? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped needing anyone to validate your vision and just started walking toward it? Because your future isn't built in public. It's built in private, in silence, in the hours no one sees, in the quiet yes you whisper to yourself even after the world says no. So protect your dream, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Let it grow in the soil of your belief. Let it be watered by your commitment. Let it rise on the back of your effort, not someone else's opinion. And when it's ready, when it's strong enough to withstand the winds of doubt and the weight of scrutiny, then, and only then, share it with the world. Not to be validated, but to be witnessed. Because by then, it won't need protection anymore. It will be a truth you've already embodied, and no one can take that from you. Now breathe, close your eyes for a second, and say this with me. My dream is mine. I don't need permission to protect it. Let that be your mantra this week. Let that be your fuel. Let that be the shield between you and every voice that doesn't understand what you're here to create. Because the most powerful things in this world start quietly, inside people like you. Let me ask you something quietly. Have you ever helped someone, not because you had to, but because your heart just couldn't look away? You didn't film it, didn't talk about it. You didn't post it online with a quote and a hashtag. You just did it. You stayed on the phone with a friend who was breaking down, even though you were breaking too. You picked up the pieces of someone's mistake, not for applause, but because you couldn't bear to see them fall. You lent money you couldn't really spare. You listened when no one else did. You softened your words so someone else wouldn't feel small. You sacrificed sleep, energy, time to show up for someone who might not even remember it tomorrow. And what did you get in return? Probably nothing. No recognition, no thank you, no grand gesture of appreciation, and maybe, in your quiet moments, you wonder if any of it really mattered, if anyone noticed, if anyone would ever do the same for you. If being kind in a world so self-centered still makes a difference. Albert Einstein once said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." But here's the part no one talks about. Living for others can feel lonely, because the world doesn't always reward quiet kindness. It celebrates the loud ones, the self-promoters, the polished performers, but not the quiet hearts behind the scenes, the ones like you. And yet those invisible acts, they shape the world more than any spotlight ever could. Your kindness didn't disappear just because no one saw it. It left fingerprints on hearts, on timelines, on people who were drowning and didn't even know it. Maybe that stranger you smiled at was one thought away from giving up. Maybe the message you sent made someone cry in a way they needed. Maybe the hug, coffee, the held silence changed a story you'll never be written into. That's the quiet power of kindness. It doesn't always echo back, but it ripples. And I know what your heart asks at night. But who shows up for me like that? Who holds me the way I hold others? Who sees my invisible labor? And the truth is, sometimes no one does. And that's what makes your kindness sacred, because you gave it anyway. You gave when you were empty. You gave when you were tired. You gave when you knew there'd be no applause. Einstein understood that energy is never lost, only transformed. And your energy, your love, your kindness, your presence, it's out there still. It may not circle back the way you hoped, but it lives, it grows, it matters. Still. That doesn't mean you don't deserve to be held too. So here's what I need you to hear now. Not as content, but as care. You are allowed to be kind, and still ask for care. You are allowed to give, and still expect reciprocity. You are allowed to serve, and still say, I matter too. Because martyrdom isn't kindness, burning out in silence isn't grace, and sacrificing your well-being for others who don't see you, that's not your purpose. That's a pattern that can stop with you. Einstein also said, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. You've done something. You've acted. You've shown up when others turned away. But now, it's your turn to act, for you. So here's a small practice, something radical in its simplicity. Tonight, when you lie in bed, replay your day. And instead of counting what you didn't get done, count the kindness you gave, the moment you were patient, the time you listened, the energy you poured into someone else's peace. And then whisper this to yourself. My kindness is not invisible. I see it. I honor it. I carry it forward. Because maybe the world won't always see what you've done. But that doesn't mean it didn't matter. And it doesn't mean it has to cost you everything. Let your kindness continue. But let it start including you. You matter. Not just as a giver, but as a human being who deserves softness too. Let me guess. You always need a plan. You think things through, twice, maybe 10 times. You weigh the risks, predict the outcomes, prepare for the worst. You don't just take action. You build a fortress of logic around it. Because if you make a move without being 100% sure, you feel like you're gambling with your life. But here's the truth. No one ever told you. That fortress, it's starting to feel like a prison. You've got ideas, dreams, even desires so real you can taste them. But the moment you get close, that inner voice whispers, not yet. Wait a little longer. You're not ready. What if you fail? And just like that, you're frozen. Not because you lack intelligence, but because you have too much. You see all the angles. You anticipate all the possible pain. And that insight, instead of freeing you, it cages you. Albert Einstein once said, a ship is always safe at shore, but that's not what it was built for. And neither were you. You weren't built to sit on the dock of your own life, waiting for the perfect wind. But here you are, anchored in your own caution. Let me ask you something. How many chapters of your life have you postponed because the timing wasn't right? How many times have you stayed still, convincing yourself that one more book, one more course, one more sign would finally give you the green light? But the truth? You already know. You've known for a while. You're just scared, not of failing, but of actually stepping into the life you want. Because once you do, there's no one left to blame. No more delays. No more hiding behind preparation. And That's terrifying, right? Because preparation gives you the illusion of control. But action reveals who you really are. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who wanted to write a book. He had everything: the experience, the stories, even the outline. But every time he sat down to write, he'd stop. He'd say, "I just need to research more." Or, "It's not the right season." Or, "When I'm less busy, I'll do it." Years passed. One day, he walked into a bookstore and saw a new release on the shelf. It was almost the exact book he had envisioned. Same topic, same tone, same message. Someone else had written it. And you know what he felt? Not anger, not jealousy, regret. Because he realized something painful. The world doesn't wait for ready. It moves with the brave. Not the perfect, the brave. You don't need more clarity. You need more courage. Einstein once said, "Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions." So let's imagine, what if your next move didn't need to be flawless? What if you stopped treating your dream like a math problem and started treating it like a dance? What if movement itself was the clarity you're looking for? Think of it this way. Every time you delay, you teach your nervous system that safety comes from staying small. But every time you act, even imperfectly, you teach it that you're capable of surviving the unknown. You are not here to rehearse life. You're here to live it. The plan will never be perfect. The timing will never be ideal. You will never be 100% ready. But your soul, it's already restless. It's already whispering, now. And here's something radical to consider. Even if you fail, it's not failure. It's data. It's redirection. It's proof that you moved. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret the things you did imperfectly. You'll regret the things you never gave yourself permission to start. So here's what I want you to try. This week, take one bold action, not perfect, not polished, just honest. Hit publish on the thing. Apply for the role. Say what you really feel. Record the video. Start the page. Write the first paragraph. Move, not because you're fearless, but because you're tired of waiting, because you've prepared long enough. Because clarity comes through experience, not theory. Because even Einstein, with all his genius, made mistakes. But those mistakes, they led to breakthroughs. They became part of the process. Your path is no different. So if you're standing on the edge of your own life, paralyzed by possibilities, here's your invitation. Leap. And if your voice trembles, let it tremble. If your hands shake, let them shake. If your heart pounds, let it pound. But do it anyway, because life doesn't reward the one who plans the most. It rewards the one who dares to begin. And you, my friend? You're long overdue. Let's be real. You've had those moments. Bursts of clarity, wild ideas that hit you in the shower, quiet whispers in the middle of the night that say, "This could change everything." You feel that fire, that inspiration, that undeniable pull toward something more. But then you share it, and someone rolls their eyes, or they laugh, or they say, "That's not practical," or "Why would you do that?" or "That's already been done." And just like that, your excitement shrinks. You start doubting yourself. You start thinking, maybe they're right. So you tuck the idea back into the shadows, telling yourself it wasn't the right time anyway. Sound familiar? That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when you share sacred things with people who don't know how to hold them. Albert Einstein once said, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." Read that again, because your ideas, your intuitions, your callings, they don't need approval to be valid. But if you constantly expose them to people who live inside small boxes, they'll make you feel like your truth doesn't fit in the world. And it's not because your ideas are wrong. It's because their vision is too narrow to hold them. Let's break this down. When you share a raw, creative spark too early, especially with people who aren't dreamers, you risk letting fear infect something that was still taking shape. Imagine planting a seed, and the moment it breaks the soil, someone stomps on it. That's what it's like to expose your dreams too soon. Your ideas are alive. They breathe. They evolve. They need safety to grow, not judgment. But here's the trap. You want to be seen. You want to be validated. You want someone to say, yes, go for it. So you share the dream, hoping someone will hand you the courage you don't yet feel. But courage doesn't come from consensus. It comes from commitment to your vision, even when no one else can see it. Einstein knew this. He challenged the very foundations of physics, alone at first. His ideas sounded absurd to most. Time bending, space stretching. It took years, decades, and before the world caught up. But he didn't wait for applause. He kept going because he trusted what he saw, even when others called it madness. So what does this mean for you? It means this. Stop asking for directions from people who've never been where you're going. Stop seeking validation from minds that don't value imagination. Stop offering your soul's blueprint to people who only understand blueprints that already exist. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman with an idea, a way to bring art and healing together in underserved communities. She mentioned it once, casually, to a co-worker. They laughed and said, "That's cute, but that's not a real business." She didn't touch that dream again for 3 years. 3 years of telling herself it wasn't realistic. 3 years of watching others do similar things and thinking, that could have been me. Eventually the idea came back, stronger. And this time, she shared it with someone different, a mentor, a visionary. Their response? That idea could change lives. What do you need to begin? Same idea, different audience, entirely different outcome, because who you share your dreams with matters. So here's what I want you to remember. Not every idea is meant to be shared in its infancy. Some ideas need to marinate. To be written in your journal before they're posted online. To be whispered to your future self before being shouted to the world. Because those ideas, they're sacred, and sacred things deserve protection. Einstein also said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Why? Because imagination is the birthplace of everything new, everything revolutionary, everything that's never been done before. But imagination is fragile, especially at first. It doesn't need feedback. It needs faith. So let me ask you, what idea have you buried because someone once made you feel foolish? What vision have you silenced because the wrong person couldn't see it? What would happen if, just for today, you believed in it again? Not for applause, not for profit, but because it came to you. You who sees differently. You who feels deeply. You who thinks beyond the lines most people won't even cross. That's not something to shrink. That's something to honor. So here's your challenge this week. Pick one idea that you've been afraid to pursue, revisit it privately, write about it, sketch it, voice note it, and instead of asking, will people like this? Ask, do I? Do you feel alive when you think about it? Do you feel possibility in your bones? Do you feel like it matters, even if no one else gets it yet? If the answer is yes, that's your green light. Now protect it, feed it, grow it, and when it's ready, share it only with those who've earned the right to witness it. People who fan your flames, not smother them. People who say, I see what you're building, and I believe in it, even if it's still messy. And if you don't have those people yet, become one for yourself. Because when you protect your ideas and when you treat them as sacred, they stop shrinking and start shining. And one day, someone will look at what you created and say, how did you think of that? And you'll smile. Because you'll remember, you didn't need permission. You just needed to believe it was yours. There's something about you. You feel things deeper than most. You notice what others overlook. You ask questions that can't be answered with a quick Google search. And maybe you've never really known what to do with all that depth. So you've learned to hide it. You've learned to smile at shallow conversations. To nod while your thoughts dive miles beneath the surface. To act normal, even when your heart is carrying galaxies no one else seems to see. And here's the truth. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. Because not everyone has the capacity to meet your depth without trying to drain it. Albert Einstein once said, "Small is the number of them that see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts." He wasn't just talking about intelligence, he was talking about soul, about the rare people, like you, who sense life at a different frequency, who cry at beauty, who ache for truth, who feel other people's pain, like it's your own. But the world doesn't always honor that. It teaches you to armor up, to be productive, efficient, logical, to ignore the whisper of your soul in favor of the shout of the crowd. And slowly, that sacred part of you, it goes underground. But here's what Einstein, and every mystic, artist, and genius who came before, would tell you: your soul is not a flaw, it's a compass. It's your wisdom. It's the piece of you that sees the world not just as it is, but as it could be. But that part of you? It must be protected. Because if you share your depth with people who only live on the surface, they'll try to simplify what can't be simplified. They'll label you too emotional, too deep, or too much. Not because you are, but because they've never gone there themselves. So here's what I want you to hear, not just with your ears, but with your heart. You are allowed to keep parts of you sacred. You don't have to explain every feeling. You don't have to water down your wonder. You don't have to shrink your questions to fit into shallow minds. You can reserve your depth for people who meet it with reverence. Because your soul is not content. It's not entertainment. It's not a story to be consumed. It's a temple. And temples are not thrown open to tourists. They're entered with barefoot silence, one step at a time. So guard your depth like gold. Speak less. Feel more. And when someone earns the right to sit with the deepest part of you, you'll know. Because they won't ask you to explain. They'll just listen and stay. Now, before we close this chapter, I have a small invitation, and it's not for the algorithm. It's for your evolution. If this video stirred something in you, if you felt seen, heard, or held in any way, then pause for a breath and do this. Comment below. Some parts of me are sacred, because naming it makes it real. Then, tap that subscribe button, not for more videos, but for more reminders of the truth you keep forgetting you already know. And if you felt that tiny pull in your chest, that quiet voice that says, "I want more of this," that's your soul speaking, hit like, not for me, but to remind the algorithm. More people need to hear this. More minds deserve depth. More hearts are hungry for healing. You are not here to be noise. You are here to be a signal. And I'm honored that, for a moment, our signals aligned. Now go protect your energy, guard your light, and remember what Einstein knew. You don't need to be understood by the world, only by the parts of it that still remember how to feel. We'll talk again soon. Until then, honor your depth, and never, ever share your soul with the shallow.